So by popular demand, we decided to make a AMD BIOS tips video. Just going to go through all the settings that I would apply just to give you better performance. It's a free optimization tip. You could gain, better loads on your CPU and also increased average, which is going to lead to smoother gameplay. You're not going to see those drops that you'd normally find. So first of all, you want to go into Extreme Tweaker. If you're on an Asus motherboard, it might be called something different on another one. But first of all, you want to enable XMP or DLCP or Expo. Go with DLCP 1 here. We want to set the FCLK for me to 2000 because that's what I require, because I've got 8000 megahertz RAM. The next thing you want to do is you want to go into DRAM timing control. Want to set memory context restore to disabled, so when your RAM actually trains, it's not going to train with errors, so make sure you've done that. Next of all, going to disable power down mode. So when you're tuning your RAM, this is going to lead to better stability, so make sure you have that set to off. UCLK div 1 mode. For me, because I've got 8000 megahertz RAM, I want to have this to be set to divided by 2. The bit of the grey area is when you get to around 6400 megahertz. You want to also set that to just equals mem clock, because your motherboard will automatically negotiate it to divide by 2, but you're going to see better gains. So that's something to consider there. Next, if we just back out of here, I've seen a lot of people talk about core tuning for gaming. I leave this as auto. I don't really see any sort of performance gain. Some people set it to legacy. That is entirely up to you. You can test it. Turbo mode, make sure that this is disabled. It's also called X3D game mode, I believe, in other BIOSes. Just make sure that's disabled. Next, as we've disabled all that, enabled things, let's go into boot. On boot configuration, make sure to disable fast boot. Next, let's go into AMD CPU configuration. Make sure you've got SVM mode and XM mode both on. A lot of anti-cheats are going to require these settings, so you're going to run into issues. Just keep it enabled for the sake of crying about having it off. So anyway, let's go into PCI subsystem settings. I prefer to have resized bar off. It's just better for my CPU lows. Yeah, again, it's going to be dependent on what your system is, what games you're playing. So yeah, you can test this yourself. Make sure you have it off or on when you're testing. See what benefits you. Next, let's go into AMD CPUs here. Make sure IOMMU is turned on. This is going to be used for a lot of anti-cheats, so if you're going to run into issues because you've disabled it, make sure just to enable it again. But one thing that I'm going to say specifically for the dual CCD X3D chips, as we come into this advanced section here, you want to go into SMU common options, CPPC dynamic preferred cores. So Windows is going to automatically use the CCD, which has the higher boost clock frequencies. So the X3D chip section with the X3D cache, that doesn't have as high boost clock speeds, so it's going to struggle to park your cores when you're playing games. You can either set this to driver or to cache. I prefer to set it to driver, but yeah, set it to one of those and that should help with that issue. Lastly, the setting that we should talk about is reducing voltages to reduce temps. So AMD overclocking here. Let's go into precision boost overdrive. You want to set this to advanced for precision boost overdrive. It'll look like this. Normally, set it to advanced. It's up to you if you want to set an override. However, we're just about reducing temps here. So all cores per CCD. Honestly, just set it to all cores. You're not really going to see any benefit going per core per CCD. You're just going to waste a lot of time for very negligible gains. Set it to all core. Change from positive to negative. This is where you're going to have to test. this is all based on silicon lottery. So depending on your CPU, you might get really lucky and you'd be able to set this to 30, 40, 50, which is a massive offset. But for the vast majority of people, sort of 10 to 20, 10 to 30, depending on if you've got a 9950X3D, 9900X3D, 9700X, for example. Also the exact same on the AM4 chips, so the 5000 series, or I also believe the 3000 series. You're most likely not going to get as high an offset, so set it to 5, 10, 15, just test. And if you see instability, go back a couple steps. So if you're on 15, go to 13, for example, and that should fix your issue. If not, completely remove it and just set it to disabled. So for me, I'm just going to set it to 20 for now. The last thing I'm going to talk about is DDR5 Nitro mode. So depending on the motherboard version that you're on for your BIOS, this, if you enable it whilst you've also just enabled in the same instance your expo profile, or if you've been doing your RAM tuning, if you enable this, you're going to run into an error when booting. So just keep this disabled for now. But on your next boot into BIOS, you can set your RX mode to 1, set your TX mode, or your data, sorry, set this to 3, and then set your control line to 1. And then that's all you have to do for your DDR5 Nitro mode. But for me, for right now, I'm just going to set this to auto. But those are all the free tips that you can quickly do yourself within BIOS to gain some performance. If there's any other sort of videos that you guys want us to touch up on, or if you've got any questions, just leave them in the comments below, or you can message us directly via Discord. That'll be left in the bio as well, or the inside the comments, sorry. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. I'll catch you in the next one.